everyone. I am Mikiela Campbell, and here with us we have
Kevoy, Campbell.
So we are here, and our video is going to be based on 10 questions we believe you need to ask before you say I do.
So number one is, why do you want to get married? I think that's the obvious question initially.
Yeah.
Why do you want to get married? Is it something that you truly believe in? Is it does marriage mean a covenant between you, your partner and God? Is it just a symbolism that it's just a show, like, oh, I'm declaring that this person is my wife? So what does it mean to you?
Also, is it pressure from friends? Is it because you feel pressured from, for example, the Kevoy? Is it that you feel pressured from me? Is it that you feel pressured from your parents?
Right.
Do you think time is running out? So obviously you'd want to know what is the motive behind us deciding to get married in this season. The second one, which Kevoy kind of hinted on, is what are your spiritual views on marriage? So we're not only a married couple, but we are a Christian couple. And so of course for us and any other Christians out there, it will be very important for you to talk about your spiritual views, simply because it's going to influence how you guys run your household, like in terms of, in the Bible, for example, it speaks about, the woman being submissive. You have some women who are not so open, or mind you, how about, yes, the Bible talks about being submissive, but what is your definition of submissive within your marriage and your union? It talks about, for example, when you have children, you should discipline the child. What does discipline look like for you, and what does it look like for me? The Bible speaks about divorce. What are your views? All of those things. I just feel like you need to, for example, worship days. Is somebody seventh day? Are you not? If you one person is seventh day, or not even a seventh day, one denomination and one person is another. For example, when the child comes along, which denomination will the child adopt, and all of that. So I think the spiritual views, especially when you're a Christian couple, is something you need to explore.
Yeah. Number 3. Do you want to have children? If yes, how do you see yourself as a parent? And I think a lot of times we take this question lightly. I know, and we go into marriage, and then after it's like, oh, but I didn't want any children, and the other person may want 3 when you didn't want any, and then over time it becomes a resentment is being built up for either person. So I think it's very important to know, do you want children? How many children do you want? So you guys are on the same page. Maybe you want 1, the other person wants 3. You compromise and you have 2.
Yeah.
So and even does the person have a timeline? Because not everybody is ready for a child right now, because in their mind they want to accomplish certain things. So if you already know the other person is not ready, then the person feels pressured to wanting to have, and you really don't want that. So I think that's a very important question.
Especially because it's almost implied after marriage. The next question is, so when are you gonna have kids?
Yep.
And not because persons get married mean that's their initial next step. So between you and guys, everything with your marriage is between your partner and you. And we'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll talk about not having too much outside influences.
Right.
So it really comes down to you and your partner talking about it. Also, because I said, yes, how many children you want to have, but also what kind of parent are you going to be? So remember we spoke earlier about what about if the child needs to be disciplined? What do you consider, about chores? Kevoy and I had this discussion earlier, because we were saying, what type of chores he believes, for example, one day when we have a child, he want a child to do, and I was like, no, I don't want a child to do that. And it was so interesting that something so small, we had a disagreement on, and then we had to come to a compromise. So you definitely want to explore what kind of parent both of you want to be, and then see, okay, is that fitting for where I want to go. The next one is definitely very controversial, but something that we believe is very important, and it is, would you be open? I think you should ask the person, would you be open to living together before marriage? And yes, guys, we know the next thing, especially because you're gonna say, oh, but you guys are a Christian couple, so why would you promote that? We did not say have sex before marriage. We said live together before marriage. And I think a lot of times we equate the two to having, influence on each other. And I'm not saying no, there's not temptation and stuff like that. But what we have come to realize is that many of the married couples that we have spoken to, a lot of the issues they have is not the biggest stuff is literally in terms of living together. So one person doesn't want to do the dishes, one person doesn't want to do this chore. It's some of the household duties being, distributed and stuff like that. For some persons, it may be that okay, the person coming and they want to leave their shoes at the doorway every single day, and that's just how they do their thing. But it's annoying to you, and you'd be surprised that over time how these little things build up and build up. So I think it's important for you guys to explore that. So what we suggested recently was living in a house where you have maybe like roommates, so you still have separate rooms, but you guys are still living together. Because guys, the truth is, you go to your little boyfriend girlfriend house one day, the place clean it nice, they know you're coming over, so then fix up the place, but the truth is, after 6 months, let's say thereabout, somebody's true colors will start to show. And maybe it's less time than that, but I'm just saying, when you're living with someone, because they get comfortable, they let their guards down, and I think you will start to see who they truly are. Not saying that always has to be like that they're bad, is who they truly are, but the point is you need to see them when they are most comfortable. I think a misconception we have is that in marriage things, people change for the better or whatever, and it's like, no, it's not really change. In fact, I think in marriage what happens is that you become more exposed because you're more comfortable and you have less to lose, in the sense that there's no incentive of I'm the chase and I'm trying to win you over. It's no, like, this is us for the rest of our life. So you want to be sure that you're okay with marrying the person as they are in front of you. So that was definitely, as I said, I know it may be controversial, so it's up to you guys, but I know it's something that has definitely helped us.
Number 5, finances. Finance is a big one, which are another question which I think a lot of people don't really sit down and talk about. Knowing the person's financial history, meaning how do you go about money management? Do you manage your money well? Do you have debts that you need to clear up? Because remember, when you get married, it's no longer your debt, it's our debt. So you need to find out stuff like that. For example, let's say it's in the US, what's your credit score like? Because if you have a bad credit score, then mine also will be affected after we get married, and stuff like that we kind of overlook. Financial goals, what's your 3-year plan after this financially? Are you saving towards something? Do you even believe in savings? Because these things, it seems simple, You have to remember, when you get married, you're now one. So all the goals have to be aligned together. So if your goal is, let's say you want a house in the next 3 years, but the person want a car. Let's say if the person don't even believe in home ownership, maybe they just want to rent somewhere. So you have to kind of really ask these questions before saying I do.
Definitely. Question 6: what are your expected roles for a husband or a wife? And this is something that, to be honest, we've seen many couples struggle with, because I've heard, for example, some of the men complain and say, well, it's not like I'm saying she has to clean up the house or whatever, but I think there's some expectation that, well, for some persons, and that is why it's good to make it clear, like, do you expect me as the wife, am I supposed to take care of certain household duties? As the man, are you expected to take care of certain household duties or certain bills? And you want to make those things, and I'm saying it's no set in stone that, oh, you have to pay all the bills and I have to clean the house. No, I'm saying speak to each other and figure out what works for both of you. Right? So for example, even with us, like, Kevoy hates washing the dishes, and so as in, I don't put him through that, meaning that's something we discuss. And I hate mopping, so whenever the house is supposed to be mopped, he knows he takes over that. But I'm saying it's teamwork, guys, but you have to be extremely honest about what you're comfortable with, so that when you're in your house, especially because the house is supposed to be a safe space, you feel comfortable and there's no extra tension and stuff like that. So you have to address, as I said, the roles, even for those persons who maybe plan on having children. When we do have a child, for example, who is supposed to do homework, are there any expectations about that? Who's supposed to carry the child to school? Are there any expectations about that? And there may or may not be, but it's still worth discussing.
Number 7, what does the wedding mean to you? All right, so this is a big one.
Topic.
Because I was talking to Mikiela the other day, and I was saying a lot of people, they wedding, they do not go into a marriage, and they wedding for 20, 30, 50 years, because to them it's the look of things. where the marriage is togetherness, is building something together, is compromising.
It's every day after the
right.
wedding day.
So, but some people, they literally wedding. So you will hear people say, "Oh, I need to get married before the age of 30." Why? Because society make it seem, oh, being married, well, being wedding is a good look. It means you're stable, right? It's an achievement. Not knowing, marriage is a big thing. Marriage is after that day, it's an everyday thing for the rest of your life. You can't get up and say, "Oh, I don't feel like being married today." So a lot of people just wedding. So I mean, asking this question, is the wedding for a show?
Yes.
Is it for us or is it for everybody else?
Yes.
Stuff like this. Do you want a small wedding or do you want a big wedding?
Yeah.
Do you believe that you have to get married in a church? Do you believe you can get married on the beach? Like, these questions are very important.
How important is the ring to you? Like, what if we decide to not have rings? Like, how much emphasis do you place on the physical representation that yes, we are married? Like, and I can just tell you guys, I mean, if other persons don't share the same views, that's fine. But I feel like a lot of the times persons spend so much on their wedding. And if you can afford it, sure, great. I think everybody deserves a nice wedding. But I think for you to put yourself in debt because of a wedding day is not wise, especially when you're supposed to be starting your life after. So I'm saying, have something nice, think about your budget, and work within that. Because the truth is, after you post the pictures, and which is what I think our society is suffering from right now, like, you do all of these things just to post the one picture, you get the likes, but then what, guys? Like, it's short-lived, you know what I mean? And you really want to think long-term, just like how marriage is a long-term commitment. I think you want to practice that even from before the wedding day, to say, okay, all the decisions we're making, how is this good for us in the long term? So same thing, maybe you guys can't afford expensive rings right now, so you say, okay, maybe just something simple, because it's really for the symbolism, not for your friends to come and say, "Oh my gosh, you got a big rock on your finger," you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to get too caught up in that, because again, you will stay, guys, you don't want to spend your life impressing people rather than, working together as a team. So our next question, which is question 8, is how involved do you think your parents should be in your marriage? And I would say parents/friends. But the parents, because we've again seen this reoccurring in so many of the couples that we speak to, that the parents, not even just marriages, even relationships, the parents seem to be overly involved.
Right.
And that is saying, what they think should happen or not happen. And it's really, guys, you have to boundaries is the word. But the solution to this question is boundaries. You have to identify before, where does your husband stand in your life? Where does your wife stand in your life? Do you make it clear to your parents and your friends that, hey, my family comes first? Even your natural family, which would be your mother, father, maybe sisters, brothers. When you get married, do they understand that your family, meaning me, Kevoy, and when you have a child, comes before, them? So I think it's something that you want to even have a talk with your parents and friends to let them know, okay, there's a different step in my life. So maybe I used to go out with you every Friday as my friend, but now I'm married and I feel like my commitment is more serious. So, things, maybe that is something you want to change. Just for example, I'm just saying you should not be afraid to have these type of conversations with friends and family in terms of where they now stand, because now this is a different level of commitment.
I mean, this specific question, I could actually go on and on, but I know I don't have enough time. But it's a really big thing, because even the Bible speaks about when you get married, you leave your parents and you cling to your husband or your wife, because you become one. And a lot of people don't understand. Even, for example, I'd hear men say they will put their mother over their wife, and you cannot do that. Like, your wife becomes your number one priority once you get married. And when we're talking about, we're saying like the value you place on your marriage also affects outside people. So I think I also have a responsibility to let my parents know, my brothers, my sisters, my friends know that you are now number one in my life. Because the thing is, when I do that, they know there's boundaries. Certain things they're not even supposed to say to me.
They're not going to put in a compromising position, which is what a lot of parents do. So they'll come and let's say the famous one, they'll say, "Oh, if you had a front car seat, who would you let go in there, your mother or your wife?" And I don't know, I feel like stuff like that, it's like if roles are made clear, it doesn't come down to a preference or a choice, you know. And in fact, I was telling Kevoy that it actually works well, where I think it should be expected that, for example, the wife goes in the front of the car. However, the wife, maybe out of respect and honor for the husband's mother, will say, okay, let her. But it shouldn't. Again, guys, if you're working together and if everything is clear, nobody feels territorial and nobody feels in competition, so everybody would win anyways. You know what I mean?
How important is sex in your marriage? This is also a big one.
Yes.
In fact, it is so big that a lot of people base their marriage on sex. To be honest.
And relationships.
And it shouldn't be so, but in relation to asking how much. So, for example, let's say I love sex, I want to have sex every day, but Mikiela, she just prefers sex maybe once per week. That will become a problem if you don't talk about it. But then when you're in your marriage and I'm always going to her for sex and she's saying, I don't really want to have sex, over time, the resentment will start building up. I think Mikiela gave me an example the other day. She was saying, even let's say we're good sexually now, but after she has a child, her sexual appetite goes down. Am I willing to live with that? And I think a lot of people need to really ask themselves that how important is sex to the marriage, because it can really break the marriage.
Yeah, and I've heard older couples as well, meaning persons who have been married for years upon years, and they say that, you know, in different phases of their life, one person in the relationship, their sex appetite actually changes. And so I'm saying that is something as well, which is why communication is going to be so important, because you also don't want to just be saying no, but your partner doesn't understand that, okay, you know, maybe you're depressed about something, maybe I'm just in a phase of life right now. But if it is that your partner understands where it is coming from, it might be easier for them to not feel neglected or not feel as if you're just not attracted to them anymore, stuff like that, because that also leads to a lot of the infidelity that we see even in Christian marriages. And we cannot deny that intimacy is an important part of any type of union, you know what I mean? So you want to ensure that you are also open about, you know, your intimacy needs and just how you view that on a whole. And then the last question is the Big Ten. Do you have any doubts? I know as simple as it may seem, it's such an important question. Something Kevoy and I have always preached is that if at the moment you're deciding, you know, this is time for us to say I do, you have any doubts at all in your mind, I mean, for whatever reason, I don't think you're ready to be married. And that's not to say anybody is perfect, that's not to say, but I feel like at the point of saying I do, you should be aware of the imperfections that you're accepting. You should be aware of this is what I'm committing to for the rest of my life, and I am okay with that. But there shouldn't be any doubts about, okay, I don't really know where he's going. Like, if that's the case, guys, do not rush it. I think so often persons who are rushing to get married, it's really not because of you two, because guys, marriage don't change anything. I mean, you're the same person the day before and the day after. You know, I think people think that after the wedding day, you're like magically new people. Guys, you really feel the same, which is why persons keep asking us, how does it feel to be married? It feels the same. So don't make a rushed decision just because of a title, just to officially say we are Mr. and Mrs. Guys, take your time, go through it, ask questions, like ask as many questions as you can before making that final commitment.
To be honest, I think as harsh as it may sound, people who rush into marriage, they're rushing into wedding, not marriage. Because if you understand the importance of marriage, then there wouldn't be any rush for it. And I think if you have any doubts, it's really self-explanatory. If you're walking down the aisle, as Mikiela said, and you have the slightest inclination of something you're not sure of, I just don't think you should do it. I think you owe yourself to not do it. And as I said, maybe after getting married, something might happen, but you owe yourself to not get into it with doubts. So if doubts come after, I can understand. But on the day of walking down the aisle, if you have doubts, I don't think you should get married. I really don't.
You'd be doing yourself a disservice. So don't do that. Okay, but marriage is beautiful.
It is.
Yeah, we got married in November. It's been such a wonderful journey, and I think honestly, guys, it's because funny enough when we were going through the questions, we realized that I mean, we didn't have a 10-point question thing before, but we realized we really did go through all these questions before, and I think it has made all the difference. So to those persons, whether you're single or in marriage already, just, you know, maybe start to ask these questions, and we, the Campbells, wish you the very, very best.